Hello and welcome to Literati, the place where stories, voices, and imagination converge. Today we lean into a conversation about names, identity, language, and early education, and how a children's book can carry far deeper meaning than its simple title suggests. Our guest is Noma Sodipo, often affectionately known as Auntie Noma. She is an educator, children's author, broadcaster, and longtime advocate for nurturing reading culture, the reading culture among young Nigerians. Now, she hosts the well-known Storytime with Auntie Noma program that broadcasts across TV and radio, which happens in many homes and introduces children to storytelling, African names, and cultural heritage. Now, her background is deeply rooted in early childhood education, and for over 20 years, she taught and also led nursery education, merging academic insight with cultural affirmation. Now, this book we're going to be discussing is deceptively simple. On each page, children see familiar letters, A, B, C, etc., but rather than that, they're defaulting to A for ant or B for ball. Noma pairs each with African flora, African name, indigenous life, as well as more when it comes to Nigeria. Accompanying each item is a short question, and at the back is a glossary of African names with their pronunciations, their origins, and their meanings. In short, this is an ABC book with dignity, a bridge between literacy and identity, and teaching children not just how to read letters, but helping them see their own cultural world mirrored in those letters. And so today we're exploring that bridging, education, identity, as well as language and belonging, how early learning shapes how we become. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome Noma Sodipo to the program. You're welcome.
Thank you, Judith. That was a beautiful, elaborate introduction. Thank you. I feel humbled.
At this point, every single person who tells me that my intro makes them feel really good, I will start collecting. I would have been rich by now.
Yeah, accolades for that.
I do have to start. Many ABC books exist. It's endless. You can go into a store and I would pull out thousands and different versions of it. But yours takes a different path, right? And this time it's anchoring letters in African names and the landscapes and the animals. And I do have to ask, where did that idea stem from for you to create this book?
Well, like you said, I was running a nursery for 20 plus years, and when teaching the children, because I was involved, I started with my two kids. And rather than the Peter and the Jane names, you're doing some writing, I just thought, why not use their names? And I could see their face light up, because the friends were writing about themselves, their names and all. So I think that's when the seeds were sown for this story, this preschool alphabet book and the Treasury of African Names. Now, I left that marinating for about 16 or 17 years. Wow. While I kept on, with the nursery school. And that's the outcome of it.
I do have to ask you, right? The Treasury of African Names, the section in the book, is particularly powerful because when you think about it, it has names and their meanings, the pronunciations as well,
right?
As their origins. And in a world that has often either flattened our names or italicized names in English books or literary works, one has to ask, what message were you hoping to pass to children, but most importantly, their parents about their names?
Well, first of all, names are important. They're stories, they could be prayers, they could just be the situation surrounding the birth of the child. And there was a little child that was asked her name, shy-looking girl, what's your name? And she said very proudly, Oluwateniola.
I love that, girl.
Yes. I know sometimes we do shorten the names. As long as you do understand what the name is all about, the full meaning, I think it's important that African culture is actually reflected through our names as well as our stories.
Our names and our stories. Children's books are often dismissed as, innocuous or innocent or lightweight, but your work suggests that it carries identity. I don't know whether you know this or not. And culture as well as memory, when you think about it in depth. And so how do you see the role of children's literature in cultural reclamation?
Well, it starts from the cradle, I would say. You're singing to your child, whether the child is still in your womb or it's a newborn baby or the toddlers or in primary school. So sing to your child, tell them stories, affirm them, affirm their culture. I know there's a lot of talk about identity at the moment, so they come through names, stories, our settings, the characters in our stories. Like we're talking about my dissertation, my recent one. And most times when I say it's to do with language and communication, people are talking about maybe our local languages. But even for English, which is our lingua franca, culture has a role to play in it. It could actually help young children communicate in audiovisual research, was also in audiovisual media use, in communication, language, and literacy.
I don't know about your era, because we're generations apart. But in my era, as much as we had children entertainment on television, it was there was a balance between Western entertainment as well as local entertainment. We had Tales by Moonlight. We had even ones that were springing up after my generations, the KKB show, Television 101. Those were programs that were there. But when you look back now at the content that we're seeing, as we're talking about media literacy, we're not seeing this content anymore. And so I want you to talk about the difficulty in creating spaces for children to see themselves in. Yeah,
it is difficult because now you turn on and there's Cartoon Network or 101 other programs. And there is some move going on towards African animation, I must admit that. There's still a lot of work to be done.
But there are streaming platforms that are not accessible to majority of Nigerians, of Nigerian children.
Yes, that is the issue. That's why we need to rise up to actually face that challenge. I started doing the program Storytime with Auntie Noma, and we did have our own challenges. I mean, I was telling you earlier on again, we went to this Amaka Igwe of blessed memory. She used to run these Bob TV conferences in Abuja. I used to run the children's network, the workshop for her. And one year we were about 17 independent producers. And the next year we were just about 3 because most others had tried to make ends meet with Nollywood and all. And quite understandably, because the terrain was really, really tough. I mean, at that time we were on quite a few channels, Storytime, Channels TV, Africa Magic, and one of the people from Britain was trying to encourage me, say, oh, I know, I've just met a chairman of a TV, whatever, and he's agreed, he's talked on a forum that he's actually going to help children's TV.
Soul Talks.
Yeah, but that very week we got a bill of about how many million for our program.
For airtime.
Yeah, for airtime, and I thought, oh, where did that all go to? So we're not really putting our money where the talk where the money where the talk where the mouth is, where the mouth is, and that is especially true with children's program. And like I said earlier, starting them from the cradle, because that actually affects it all the way up. It's very important. Yeah.
I have to talk about the reviews of this book, and just I mean, for me reading it, I've seen the African elements is going there, animals, food items, names, places, and you replace it with default Western names or items that we normally see. How challenging was it for you to curate that? Was it easy?
Well, the thing is, when we talk about default, in fact, when we're talking about we're comparing, you're talking about your experimental studies. Now, when you talk about the experimental and the control, by default, our control is neutral media, which is Western, and it shouldn't really be so. That's because that's become the norm. I don't like necessarily to make a genre out of African children's cultural literature. I just want it to flow naturally because we are in this setting. But it's just because of the situation we found ourselves in. So it's like we're almost like making a point of it. But really, it should just flow naturally. Because you're in Britain, you don't say, oh, I'm writing a British book or an English. You know what I mean? It flows naturally. But like I said, because we have been colonized and, we're not victims anymore. We're just rising still out of that. So I have so many stories, and it doesn't have to be folk stories. So many everyday stories. I'm going down the street and I'm getting some ideas. These are the settings that children find themselves in. And I think it was Chimamanda who said something.
Was Adichie.
Or
Delua.
I think you interviewed her sometime.
Yeah, the front of the show.
So I think she mentioned going in a car as a child with her kids, and just that kind of sadness about all the stories that were going to be untold. And I feel that way sometimes. I hope I can tell all the stories I have. But the list keeps increasing. And I'm wondering, am I going to really have the chance to tell all these stories? But stories are there all over the,
Can we talk about interactivity as well? I think we were discussing this before we came on. Questions and engagement have to factor into learning, and I think that's one of the issues that you raised. I mean, with your workbook, we have about 3 workbook here.
4 to go with the alphabet.
But we also talked about how expensive it is now for that to happen? Talk to me about that.
That is another major challenge because we want to produce the books, but printing costs in the last couple of years, you know what that is like, it just shot up. So many people, me included, are going online to either go on Amazon or Ingram Sparks or one of these. There's so many now, you know, digital to whatever, Lulu or whatever, because of the cost of printing. But that is a pity because the children, especially the age group I deal with, need to handle this book. Sense of touch, one of the many senses for that age group, early learners. They need to be able to turn the pages of the book, feel it, own the book, put it under the pillow when you're going to sleep. That is part of the whole process.
Right.
You know, so it's something I really hope we can address. There are a group of people doing it in South Africa right now. They believe that a child by the age of 5 should own at least 100 books. So I was calculating that, you know, like going to the bookshop every day with mommy or daddy every other
weekend.
Every other week and getting a book, you know, and building it up over time. So that needs to be done. We have a lot. When we first started our TV program in 2004-05, my husband and I, like I always like to say, we travel all over the world. We're looking for books with African faces that the kids could identify with. When, you know, there were few and far between. So I just started with a book I had. It was, I think, The Tiger Who Came to Tea. That was my pilot episode. I think Zebejiro's team did helped us with the pilot team. And I sent it to a lady who had a children's television network abroad. And she was surprised that we're using African rhymes and book. I said, well, that's what we have at the moment. People, you know. So, but now the story has changed. I mean, you could probably mention a lot of British children's authors, Julia Donaldson, Roald Dahl, you know, Jacqueline, so many, and without naming one Nigerian one, but now there's so many. You know, there's Lola Shonei, there's Olubunmi Tala, there's so many, there's Noma Sodipo. So we have a lot more children's, African children's writers.
Right.
Yes, but the gap is still there. I mean, you go abroad to W.H. Smith or Barnes & Nobles and you're just lost for kids books all over the place.
Yeah, that's what my heaven looks
spend
like.
hours. Don't go shopping with me. So you need that. I mean, I want to write a story for every character in this book. I want a teacher to be able to take a theme, maybe caterpillars turn into butterflies, and be able to get a story, not a science book, a fun book, to buttress what they're learning. Right. Or even if it's this particular letter of the alphabet, maybe it's letter B or whatever, and you want to write, yes, there's Bayo here, baby Bayo.
Baby
he's a boy. He likes to play with his ball. What color? Of course, it's blue. And then there's some silent pointers. There's a bear as well, and there are other things.
Hang on, let me pull it up here for viewers to see. Hopefully, they can pull that. There we go. So that's Bayo. Sorry, that's Bayo over here.
There's a story about baby Bayo, and it's a family-centered theme. You know, I did a workshop for Wole Soyinka's one of his birthdays. They were doing in Abeokuta, and this time I was meant to coach secondary school SS2 students, and I thought, how am I going to relate them to a preschool alphabet and African names? And they came up with ideas. You should see some of the ideas they had with baby Bayo, you know, for the family theme, for a house help who was maltreating this baby or whatever. So there's so much that these kids can relate to in their everyday settings, just from one character.
Our stories need to be told.
Yes.
We're going to take a pause here, Noma. If you're just tuning in, we're with Noma Sodipo. She is a children's author. We're discussing her book, a preschool alphabet book, which is a treasury of African names. After the break, we will be diving into the book's impact, reception, and how Noma envisions its legacy, which has already started.
And it's re-release.
Stay with us, everybody. We'll be back.
Yes.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here at News Central TV, with stories that put Africa first.
welcome back to Literati. Now, before the break, we spoke about the motivations and vision behind a preschool alphabet book and a treasury of African names by the author, Noma Sodipo, who is my guest on the program today. Now we turn to how it meets the world, how children respond, and how it shapes identity and what lies ahead. Now, you were talking about the diaspora earlier, and in Nigeria, in the diaspora, names often travel and they morph or lose their pronunciation. Do you see your book as a tool to resist that erosion?
Yes.
You know, particularly for second-generation African children.
Oh, definitely. That's why we have that pronunciation guide at the back. It's not just a pronunciation guide. The origins are there. The meanings of the words are there. And we have some special names like twin names. You know, Yorubas are meant to be the ethnic group with the largest number of twins or something. There's a section dedicated to that. Tayit, Kende, Adowu, Idogbe, and all the names that follow the twins. And then we have some Tanzanian names, a series of names. We have some Ghanaian names. You know, they have weekday names. So there's a whole real treasury at the back. In fact, when I wrote the book, I thought I had finished A to Z. And I took it to this layout guy. He says, you really finished? Are you sure you have finished, really? And it took another year at least to do the treasury of African names at the back, putting together those origins, the translation, the pronunciation guides, and the meanings. It took asking some grammars. Grandma Gambia, she's acknowledged in the book, my mom, and just getting the original.
How would one balance introducing African names with not excluding children who have a multi-linguistic experience or reality? How would you approach that?
I think they can be fun, especially with the young children I deal with through songs. Songs are a powerful way of learning. You know, there's one activity we're doing in our mini course at the end of this month, and we actually include stories and we include songs from, different parts of Africa, and the children learn it like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we love the song, the response and call.
Yes,
it's always fun.
Yes.
Always fun times.
Yes.
There's some critics that have argued that cultural projects, the cultural projects like this that celebrate names, and local content, sometimes feel like it's tokenistic, unless structural investments are being made, whether in education or otherwise. How do you respond to that sort of argument or criticism?
It's not so much academic, or I don't even like to say workbooks. I say activities at this stage. Play learning through stories, through rhymes, through. We're actually talking about screen time as well.
Yeah.
The children, yes, they do learn a lot from what they watch, but how much are they watching? It's not so much cutting it down. For instance, it's how do you manage that? And there are some guidelines between 0 and 2. Don't even give them screens. Some don't watch it unless they're maybe on a video call, a short video call to mommy or daddy who's probably away. And then from 2 to 5, maybe an hour a day from 5. And then it's just, you're building up gradually like that. And not just the screens that they're watching, but how you're engaging them during that screen time is very important, because passive watching is not actually doing them much good.
What do you believe is missing? What's that piece that's missing or that we have neglected for too long when it comes to children on the continent and beyond?
Well, I think our language, for many, I wish my children could speak.
Yeah, I wish I could speak.
Yeah, so I'm actually an advocate of that. I'm asking my friends, are you teaching your children, your language? Don't use the excuse, I don't speak the language my husband does. Teach them one. And at even an early age, they don't get confused. You have kids whose grandmas are speaking the language, and parents are speaking theirs, the school is speaking theirs. They can learn 5 languages without getting confused. So it's very important to address that issue. I mean, other nationals are here are learning our language. I hear there are truckloads of some nationals, Asian nationals, going to learn Yoruba. And when it's like that with the kids...
Yeah, it was lesson plan.
When it's like that with the kids, it stays. There's a connection, there's an engagement, yes.
Right, and lesson plan also helps you as well to get involved in the process, because then you get into the mind of the learner as you're planning your lesson on my education is coming out.
But being adaptable as well,
because then you know where the gaps are very quickly, and then I think at the time you submit your lesson plan way ahead of time, because then we're teachers. My background is showing. We're pretty much pressed for time, but before I let you go, there's something we play here. Anyone who sits on this chair has to do. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? It's called Humor Judith Game Show, but it's a rapid fire session. It's where I ask you rapid fire questions and you have to answer quickly.
So I can't say this or that.
You can't. It can only answer. You can't even think. Just that's the answer. You ready?
Yes.
A to Z. Which letter feels most alive to you?
A. Let's start with
A. Thank you. A is it's A
because I didn't want to go thinking through the alphabet.
No, but I think
just
A
said the
is
first.
it's a beautiful.
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is very alpha.
Yes.
Come on now. I love A.
Oh my goodness. Because,
Favorite African name beyond the book? Just favorite African name when you think about it. Please don't say your name.
Not say my name. Favorite African name beyond the book. Oh gosh. Well, I just had a Mali chat to you, so let's stick at that.
Okay, let's take a Mali chat. Let's see. Reading to a toddler, funniest moment you've had.
Oh, reading to a toddler, the funny. Oh, the stories they come up with, or the questions they come up with.
The questions they come up with.
Yes.
They are
the connections they make. The very weird ways.
Yeah.
How they connect things. Yes.
Pen or microphone? Which do you reach for? Which would you reach for first?
Pen or microphone?
Or microphone. You both. You are the intersection of.
I'm trying to go back to that pen thing. You know, I was just talking yesterday with a friend. I mean, you get these ideas you want to write, and in the middle of the night you're writing your notes in your phone. But I'm trying to screen myself as I'm preaching for this, so I should go back to the pen and paper. Yeah.
You say it. You say it as is.
Yes.
If someone mispronounces your name, what's your reaction?
Oh, like I told you, this friend who'd been pronouncing it, she just realized for the past 30 or so years or 40 years. Well, we just took it like that. You know, in England, they would say Noma, and I just took it. Now, when you ask me my name, I would say Noma. Story time with Auntie Noma. You know.
So I've been mispronouncing your name so far.
I've got all sorts. Noma. So,
yeah, it's English.
As long as yeah.
It's the influence of English. Now or vowel, or now or verb.
Yes.
What's the power of naming to you?
Yes. Well, a name is a noun.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's also a verb when you think about it in some sense.
Yeah. We did introduce that subtly in the book as well. So a name. Give me an example.
Noun or a verb when you think about a name. Which if you were to pick a name, right, that is much more. Would you lean to one that is more of a noun or more of one of a verb?
Well, because our African names actually do tell stories. You know, so by the time you translate the names,
it becomes a verb very quickly.
You know, so both are,
Bert, you are a children's author, right? So I do have to ask, a children's book that you love even till now as an adult.
Till now as an adult. Well, the one I like I said, we used for our pilot, which was years ago before we started having all these African. The Tiger Who Came to Tea was a lovely one. Our kids loved that as well. And one that's, there's so many of them. We have, now that I've gone blank. We have a lovely one by Olubumi Talabi. Yeah, she has one on in the water talking about these stills. These in Morocco. Is it Morocco?
Morocco.
Yeah, that was a lovely story.
Yeah, that's a lovely story. I've forgotten the characters in her book. She also has them in Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo as well. Yes, Olubumi Talabi. She's done really well. Big shout outs to her.
Yeah, she does.
You have an open invitation to come on the show.
Well, yeah.
Quiet afternoon or storytelling session. Which is your creative space for you?
Quiet afternoon.
Quiet afternoons. Is it with a cup of tea or?
I'm not really a tea person.
Really?
To be honest. I'm not a water person. Boring.
If your book became a digital app, what feature would you add to it? If this book became a digital app, what feature would you add to it?
I would like to add a feature whereby domestic staff can actually learn to read and write. You know, drivers, for instance, they take their gas somewhere, they're spending like 2-3 hours at a place, and many of them are illiterate.
Yeah,
so I've thought about developing this alphabet to actually, to help people like that to read and write.
That's a brilliant one.
That's a diversion from my age, the primary age group.
Because when you think about it, there are also caregivers as well to the children. And you have to also, factor them in when it comes to learning and the growth of the child. 3 words that describe your relationship with children's stories.
I love them.
3 words that describe you love them.
I love them.
That's it. That's a word.
You're putting me on the spot, so I'm not trying to think too much.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I must say thank you so much for taking that time to join us. This has been a needed discussion when it comes to children's literature, but most importantly, to continue to create content. We discussed the challenges and also what lies ahead. Thank you, and well done.
Thank you
well
so
done
much.
on the relaunch of the book. We've been discussing a preschool alphabet book. Now, in this book, it also has a treasury of African names, and my guest today, Noma Sodipo, gives young readers more than letters. She gives them a mirror, a connection, and a foundation of dignity. And she shows us that to teach reading is to teach belonging. And so I would say, may each child who opens this book whisper first words and letter bold stories as well.
Yes.
And also to know their names and knowing their roots is mostly important.
Yes.
Thank you once again, Noma, for coming on.
Thank you very much, Judith,
and
for having
thank you
me.
to all of our viewers joining us today on Literati. I am Judith Atibi, and I've been your host. Until next time, as always, keep reading. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.